All right, guys, so I was going back and reading these articles, which I know many of you guys are following these in YouTube and a bunch of other channels, but one of the ones I was reading for our thought leadership article was Myron Ritter for BioGreen out of Florida. And he talked about his perspective in marketing and sales in the pest control space. So the interesting thing that I really liked was that Myron kind of boiled it down to what I would call some of the fundamental building blocks of marketing your pest control company. And so Myron talks about a couple of key things. The first thing Myron says is that as you're growing your business, let's call you a startup, is that if you want to go down the route of Facebook or social media, learn how to do it yourself and do it yourself. I would tell you this, for a growing company, I would agree with Myron, because if not, from my perspective, if not, then what happens is you're outsourcing your revenue to marketing agencies as you're growing. However, you don't really have the core expertise to know if they're doing the best job ever. And so we're trusting people to actually make decisions for your business. And so I think it's okay, but I do agree with him that when you're growing, you should do it yourself to start. That way you have a good education. As he kind of continues down the road, he makes a couple of other really good points as I'm looking at it. And he talks about more of like grassroots efforts. And so some of the basic grassroots efforts he talks about are things like, hey, if you've got a local high school football team, pay for advertising at the stadium, put your banner up. Hey, you know what? I agree with him. When I built my company, we had hundreds of banners up all over the state of Florida with our logos, our brand, our offers. And you know what? It worked really well and it was very inexpensive. The next thing he talked about was support a local scout troop. And so he calls out Girl Scouts. And I can tell you this, I've been a Boy Scout leader a long time. When we were building our company, we would support the Boy Scouts. Because if you think about it, a family who has a Boy Scout or a family that has a Girl Scout is your ideal customer in most cases. Because it costs money to do this. These people, they're families that put their kids into these things, and they're people that are buying pest control. So you know what? I agree with him 100%. The last thing he had talked about is looking out for other things within the community. And so as I dive into this a little further, he talks about when you have opportunities to put your company's name out there in the community, take advantage of it all the time. There's tons of free ways to do this. From Myron's perspective, his company trucks are all wrapped, and so he tries to put his company trucks where lots of people are in the community, farmers markets, these type of things, and he's always trying to do it. I think like looking back, at this article from March of 2022, is these things really matter. So if I was gonna go build a company and say I'm under $1 million business, like these are things that get you free opportunities or very cheap opportunities to go grow your organization. So Myron, we're greatly appreciative of the time you put in here, and looking back, I think this is really important today, and I'm sure that you guys are still doing it over at BioGreen.